Hey everyone, as most of you know by now, I'm a photographer, drone pilot, ham radio operator, but I'm also a cook. And every so often I'd like to talk about food, so that's what we're going to do this week. So, if you've heard my previous podcast where I learned how to make phu ga, which is a Vietnamese dish, it's something they apparently serve in the morning. I usually use it for dinner. It consists of chicken cooked for a couple of hours with spices and veggies in it, like things like garlic and ginger and onion being cooked with it. And then you serve it with rice noodles. So I did that for a while until I cook things multiple times until I get comfortable with doing them so I can just do it without having to worry about recipes or anything else. Plus, it gets me an idea of what I want to modify in the recipe. I don't have a lot of recipes that I use directly as printed. So, next thing I started doing is pizza. Now, while I'm not doing the sauce by hand yet, pizza has a lot of different pieces to put together here. I am doing the pizza dough by hand at this point. But as I was making the pizza, I thought, why don't I do chicken on my pizza? I've got pepperoni. Let's add some chicken to it. So that led me down the path of, well, if I'm not going to make pho, then what if I cook the chicken in the crock pot with those same seasonings? And when you do that, the chicken just falls apart, right? You get those wonderful small pieces that you can spread all over a pizza rather than larger chunks. I thought, well, that is a good way to use the chicken. Plus, the chicken's pre-cooked, right? You don't have to worry about a pizza coming out with uncooked chicken on it. Even though the pizza is being cooked at 450 degrees or 400 degrees for 15 minutes, you still run the risk there of making the chicken, depending on the size and the shape of the pieces, not getting cooked all the way through. And this takes care of that problem. So when I make the chicken up, I cook it in a crock pot. I can just throw it in the morning and let it cook. I decided to try something a little different this last time, and I threw it in overnight and just let it cook on low heat, which takes virtually no power, about 80 watts, and let it cook overnight. And the chicken came out fantastic. It just falls apart in your hands. But you end up with all that juice left because basically you've just made chicken soup. So what do you do with the juices? Well, for me, I take a strainer and another bowl, and I pull the chicken out of the crock pot and then pour the crock pot in through the strainer into the bowl. That way I get rid of anything else that could be left in there. If I've used cinnamon, the solid pieces of cinnamon, throw that in there and let it cook. The pieces of garlic, pieces of ginger, anything that I've got in there can just come out, including the onion, because I won't be using that onion on the pizza. And then you end up with the juice at the end. Well, the juice can now be used in other things, right? You could make yourself chicken soup, right? Take some of the chicken and make yourself pho anyway. And what I use it for is in the making of stir fry. So what you do here, and this is how I prepare my pho as well. I don't just cook the noodles for the pho in water. I cook them in the broth. I do the same thing with the rice, right? You put your rice in, you throw in your cup of, you got your half a cup of rice or whatever, and you throw in your cup of broth that you've created. And that becomes part of the rice. So much so that if it boils out properly or cooks through properly, all of that and all of the nutrients are now in the rice. And not only do you get flavor from having the rice cooked that way, you also have nutrients from the broth that are now baked into the rice that you then add to your stir fry. And for people who aren't familiar with stir fry, it's a simple process of having a wok which is a wide open pan basically, that you start your other things in, like beef or chicken or anything else you want to cook in there. A lot of people will start off with egg and start cooking an egg in there as well. Throw in your veggies. You just keep constantly, for the most part, swirling that around once the chicken's cooked, or the beef is cooked. Whatever meat you're doing, you just want to let it sit and cook first. Throw the other stuff in, swirl it around, and keep doing that until your rice is done. Then you're going to throw the rice in on top, and now you're going to swirl that whole mass together. Now your rice is already going to come in hot, so you want to make sure that your stuff that you cooked in your wok is already at the temperature you want it to be by the time the rice is done. Then once you're at that stage, you swirl it a few more times to mix it all together and get it all nice and hot, and you're ready to serve. But again, you've used your broth from the chicken for another purpose, right? So you can still cook your chicken, still throw all the spices in there and have a rich broth, and now you can use it other places, like doing your rice. I do it, like I said, when I do the foo, I throw it in there. Now, what I've liked to do with the foo is when I started out, I would have the chicken, I would pull the chicken apart and the chicken would go in with it right out of the pot. But I've changed that a little bit, because what I've liked to do for a little bit more taste for me, this is to my taste, I like to break the chicken up and throw it in a skillet with a little bit of sweet garlic sauce or some sweet chili sauce or something to go on the chicken, and just give it a little bit of a browning while it's in there, because the rice noodles only take about 4 minutes. All right, so you throw them in hot water and you're done in 4 minutes. So you don't have a lot of time to do anything on the side if you want a quick meal. So you've got a couple of minutes for it to heat up to boiling, and then 4 minutes of cooking on the noodles. So you got about 6 minutes to put your stuff in a skillet and just give it a little bit of heat to it, give it a little bit of grilling. Now, when you take that chicken out, you can immediately start to break it up into pieces. All right. If you want to put it in some kind of sauce, marinate it, and you break it apart, it'll make it much easier for it to marinate, and it'll marinate quicker because it's not trying to go through a mass of chicken. It's going through bits of chicken. Does make it a little bit more difficult to do for other things if you want to just take it out and use it as is. But if you're going to use it, let's say on a pizza, and you would like to have barbecue chicken on your pizza. So you cook your chicken up to get a good broth. You probably added some salt, and maybe you used a Caribbean jerk recipe, which might have a little cinnamon in it, might have some coriander in it. And you've thrown all that together and you've let that cook. So your chicken is now nice and tender and juicy. It's all cooked up. You take the chicken out, let it cool, obviously, first. Start to tear it apart into pieces that you want. Cut them so that the size you want. Do whatever you need to with it to get it what you're looking for. Put it in a small container. I prefer glass. I don't like to do this kind of stuff in plastic materials because I don't want anything from the plastics to come through, especially if I'm using something that's acidic, like maybe a barbecue sauce. Then throw in whatever marinade you want to throw in there with it, and just let it sit until you're ready to use it. So if it's going on on a pizza, you take your chicken out and you could just scoop your chicken with the marinade right out of the container you've put it in, and put it on your pizza. Why? I can't remember pizza today. I have no idea. But anyway, you put it on top of the pizza. That'll add some of the marinade to the pizza as well and give you even more flavor. Now, I've got to figure out how to do pizza sauce next. I've done spaghetti sauce, so it's not that different. The only thing is, when you do it yourself and you want to make a sauce, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to puree your tomatoes. Tomatoes have a lot of water. And the first thing you notice when you do that is you need a lot of tomatoes which can be difficult depending on the time of the year as far as cost is concerned. But you're going to need a lot of tomatoes to get what you're looking for. You can take a little bit of that bite off if you go get some paste, right? Buy a little small can of tomato paste and throw that in there. Churn that around with all of the tomato and drain some of the tomato off. Now, I haven't found a use for the water yet, but you would have leftover water from the tomatoes if you strain them a little bit. Then you let that cook down. It's going to take a while. Again, I love having my little crock pot. I will take the tomato material that I made, put it in the crock pot, put it on low heat, let it cook for a while. It's the same way I do my chili. Just throw it in the crock pot, leave it for cooking. When I used to do my big batches of chili in the other crock pot, I would sometimes leave that cooking for 10 to 12 hours. Just leave it in the pot, forget about it. I would have put bacon at the bottom, sausage at the bottom, and just let it cook. And it cooks for hours and hours and hours. And about maybe halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, I'll churn it a little bit around just to get everything mixed together. But other than that, it just sits for the entire time and cooks. It's kind of like cooking rice. You put it in the pot, put the cover on it, set the timer, forget about it. You're not going to touch it until such time as it's ready. It's the same principle for doing the chili. But again, when you're doing this, all you need is whatever spices you want to add to the chicken, and think about what you're going to do with it afterwards. If you're going to marinate it, put some spices in there that'll complement the marinade, even if it's just salt or something like that, just to give it a little bit of flavor to it. If you're going to use the broth for other things and you want it to have good flavor to it, then you're going to want to add other spices to it, maybe some garlic. Ginger is a good choice. Cinnamon is surprisingly a good choice. It gives you a back flavor to it, an aftertaste. And just put all that together and let your chicken cook for hours and hours. It'll come out juicy. It does not dry in there. It's not like you're baking it, so it's not going to be dried out. It's going to be very juicy, and it's going to just fall apart in your hands. It's going to be cooked all the way through, so you don't have to worry about anything, and you're good to go. But again, we're talking hours of cooking. You're not going to throw it into the crock pot and have dinner in 2 hours. You're going to throw it in the crock pot in the morning, and when you come home at night, 8 hours later, your chicken's going to be ready. Or throw it in overnight. All right, before you go to bed, pop the chicken in there. When you get up in the morning, take the chicken out, put it aside into the refrigerator or something so that it's kept fresh, and pour out your juice, pour it into jars, get it somewhere that you can handle that later. Then you can go off to work. When you come home, you've got your chickens all ready to go. Your broth is all ready to go. And then if you want to go the foie gras route, then all you're going to need is some veggies to throw in with the noodles. You're going to cook your noodles in the broth, grill up the chicken a little bit. Like I said, then throw some veggies on there to grill them up a little bit to go with it if you want. I like to add onion when I do my foie gras, and you're good to go. Onion and mushroom are my favorites for putting together with the food. But again, just throw it in there, and in a couple minutes when you get home, you've got dinner. So if you know it's going to be a rough day, or you know you got things to do that night and want something quick, just throw the chicken in the night before, pop it out in the morning, and when you come home at night, you got a meal in just a few minutes. So that's what I got for you guys this week. I will talk to you all next week.